All right, we have a few different big Nintendo Switch 2 news stories we need to talk about today, starting with Nintendo directly seeking feedback on the game keycard situation and consumers purchasing options available to them on the Switch 2, because if you've been around on the internet watching videos like this and you've looked at the comment section, yeah, people don't seem to be a fan of the game keycard. I myself am not a fan of the game keycard, and this is probably your most direct form of communication and the biggest opportunity we've had to voice those concerns directly to Nintendo, so I definitely want to highlight that, in addition to probably one of the most promising reports signaling that Nintendo might already be in the works of producing multiple cartridge sizes, which could also lead some credence to the idea that game keycards won't be the only option for third-party games going forward during this console generation. Then we have the unfortunate round of price increases that has officially hit in the US for the entire Switch 1 family of systems, but a lot of the accessories and products directly from Nintendo's lineup are seeing a notable increase. So we're going to highlight exactly the official changes to everything that has now gone up. Then we do have some good news around Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which will not be a game keycard, and interestingly at a higher price point, which I think backs up the entire mindset of what's going on with this keycard situation. And finally, an exciting update for Metroid Prime 4, because Nintendo has confirmed that it's not being pushed to 2026. It's still available this year in 2025, and it's going to be playable at an upcoming expo in Canada. So we'll get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick this off right over at VGC, where you can see their detailed article written up around this survey that is going on right now, which I will have linked in the description down below, so you can let Nintendo know your thoughts directly on this keycard situation. But you have here, Nintendo's survey seeks feedback on controversial game keycards, physical and digital purchases. Nintendo is gauging player opinion on Switch 2 game purchasing options. The survey asks whether players prefer buying games physically or digitally, and seeks feedback on Switch 2's controversial game keycards, which have proved unpopular with some consumers. The only difference between a keycard title and a digital download is that the former can be resold and will work on other Switch 2 systems without the need for virtual game card lending. So far, the majority of third-party Switch 2 games are game keycards, with only a few exceptions, reportedly because only one size card is available to developers, which is 64 gigabytes. As spotted on Reddit, Nintendo's survey asks respondents how many Switch titles they've bought in the past year for themselves and others as gifts. Participants are then asked how many Switch games they have resold after playing. The survey goes on to ask whether players prefer purchasing games in physical format or digitally, and what the main reasons are for their preference. It then lists the various ways players can purchase Switch 2 games, including the game keycard system, which is described but not named as such. For each method of purchasing Switch 2 games, players are asked how likely they would be to use it, from definitely to definitely not. And the big question here, physical requiring download. The physical cartridge allows the download of a full game to the console. The cartridge must be inserted into the console to play the game. The cartridge can be shared and resold, and you have this option here to answer that you definitely would buy that format or you definitely would not buy that format. And if you want Nintendo to know that you're not interested in key cards, you would clearly select that you definitely would not buy that format. And listen, Nintendo asking for this feedback now doesn't mean that the game key cards are going away tomorrow or anything like that. But I do think that this could actually be a situation that's gaining enough traction that it is on Nintendo's radar as a potential concern. And at the end of the day, if they are seeing poor third-party sales overall and lower than expected numbers on game publishers and developers from a third-party perspective because of the key card, maybe deterring a lot of people that would normally pick up those games potentially physically, just opting not to get them at all. Some people, such as myself, would just opt to get them digitally instead. I see a lot of people that say I would buy that game on my Switch 2, but it doesn't have an on-cartridge physical option, hence I'm not buying it, period. And if this is a sizable enough chunk of the audience, hardcore collectors or not, you might actually drive some change here, because Nintendo at the end of the day is in this to make money, and their partners are as well. And if they're seeing some kind of correlation between game keycard releases and a lower overall attach rate for that software, and they're starting to figure out that it's correlating to keycard releases, yeah, that would make potentially Nintendo start to seek out different cartridge size options, which is the big hang up for this thing. We're going to talk about one story that further proves that, but if you're not familiar, essentially Nintendo has only produced one physical cartridge size this generation in the Switch 2, which is 64 gigabytes, and that is an expensive option. It may be upwards of $15 or $16 according to rumors and reports. So it seems like with that $15-16 price point, developers and publishers are just opting to go the key card because they're obviously significantly cheaper than that, and obviously that means it won't cut into their bottom line and their take-home profit from each game release near as much. We are in a cross-generation period right now where we're actually seeing some Switch 1 games still come out as fully on cartridge content, and then that same game is released for Switch 2, but it's a key card for the Switch 2 version because there are smaller size options available for Switch 1 cartridges, but there are not for Switch 2. And fortunately, there is one promising report that doesn't directly show proof, but it does actually correlate with one of Nintendo's partners they use to produce these game cartridges, expecting to make different storage options of this 3D NAND storage. As you can see, this next report we're going to read through over at Universo Nintendo, where it says Switch 2 cartridges may gain new size options in the future, analysis shows. And it's kind of a long, detailed article, but the long and short of it, and most important part, is this right here, where it says, meanwhile, Macronix reported a 2% drop in ROM sales of the previous quarter and a 4% drop the same period last year, with no mention of supplies for the Switch 2 in quarter ended June 2025. The company, however, revealed that it is preparing to meet different capacity needs, being able to use its own MLC NAND or externally acquired 3D NAND in the production of new cartridges. So the long and short of this is basically a company that Nintendo does use for these 3D cartridge production is actually seeking different sizes and could be very much indeed for a partner like Nintendo. And whenever you have different sizes available than 64 gigabytes, like a lot of these games that are coming out need nowhere near that on the Switch 2. If we got something like an 8 gigabyte or 16 gigabyte option, we're gonna see a lot of these games that just could be released on cartridge actually go that route. And so maybe for some level of hope out there, it's not going to last all generation where every third-party game is a key card, and this could be something that's more of a launch window situation and not the entire life cycle of the console, which is definitely what I'm hoping happens. But we'll see on this one. For now, my game collection physically is a lot smaller in the Switch 2 generation than it has been in any generation prior to this. So I personally am not picking up key cards. If it's a game I really want, I just don't see the value in a key card personally, as I'm not going to resell my game. And for the long-term preservation of a game where you just don't want to ever have to worry about needing a server involved to be able to play said game, I'm opting to not pick those up. But it does seem like it's on Nintendo's radar. There's maybe some reports to suggest they are seeking production of more size capacity options for this 3D NAND storage. And hey, that would mean great things for our internal storage on the Switch 2 as well, because you probably realize if you brought over your Switch 1 library and a lot of your data, 256 does not go very far in this generation. But let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. And next up, we have to tackle this US pricing increase on an 8-year-old console. Yes, that is a real thing that we are dealing with here, but here are the price changes in the United States that took effect today. Switch 1 consoles went up $50 OLED, $40 normal console, and $30 for the Lite. And then the Joy-Con 2 pair and Pro controller went up $5, Alarma went up $10. Now, we knew a lot of these pricings because of the Target basically went live with them early. We did talk about this in a prior video, but we now have the entire lineup of what is changing here from the pricing perspective of Nintendo's own accessories and consoles. So you do have the differences of $40 for the standard Switch, $50 up for the OLED model. That means it's $399. Like, spend the extra $50 and get a Switch 2. It doesn't make any sense to buy a OLED anymore. Then you have the Nintendo Switch Lite at $229, up from its $199. From here, we have the Joy-Con. So Joy-Con 1 pair, $10 up. An individual Joy-Con did not go up at all. It's still $49.99. The charging stand is up $5. The Pro Controller 1 is up $10 to its new price of $79.99. The NES controller for NSO is up $10. Every other NSO controller is essentially up $5. So even that Sega Genesis one that I still need to pick up at some point, it just went up $5. Carrying case plus screen protector is no change. Then you have the Switch 2 accessories that have been hit, and we talked about the Joy-Con 2 going up to $99. That is now $100 for a standard pair of Joy-Cons. That is officially in effect. You do have the smaller accessories not affected here, like the individual Joy-Cons, as well as the wheel and charge grip. You have the Joy-Con straps going up $1, Pro Controller 2 up another $5. So we are now at $89.99 for that. GameCube controller is up to $69.99 instead of the previous $64.99. The camera stayed the same. These other accessories, carrying cases, all that stayed the same. The dock set, if you need an extra dock for any reason for the Switch 2, is up to $124.99. And then, surprisingly enough, the already ridiculously expensive Amiibo have actually also seen price increases. So some of the older ones that were still available at $15.99 and $19.99 now have $19.99 and $29.99 price points, and we are up to $39.99 on certain sets of Amiibos. That has not increased any further, but $40 for an Amiibo, it prices me out of it. I'll tell you that right now. I love those Amiibo. I will not pick them up at a $40 price point. Nintendo Sound Alormo clock is up $10 as well to $109 in case you were wanting to pick up one of those. So yeah, reality is we are in a strange time to see console prices go up and not down this late into the generation, but even hitting the whole host of accessories. I mean, it's one of those things that hopefully by time holiday season comes around, we see some sales go back on these items, so you're not just knowingly paying more than you once were for them, but as it stands right now, you are going to knowingly pay more. And you know, the other hope would be is that this doesn't actually hit the Switch 2 base console price. I don't think it will in the immediate future, but with this 20% tariff on Vietnam, that is 10% higher than it used to be, and this seems like the longer term deal. Nintendo might not be okay with eating that extra 10% for the entire generation of the Switch 2, aka they've been transparent. They did not factor in tariff pricing into their console's launch price, and Nintendo likes to make a profit off their consoles day one. They have said right now the Switch 2 price remains unaffected. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be the case, but my personal speculation on it is if we do see that price point adjusted for Switch 2, it will probably just be that bundle pack-in game option going away, where instead of having a $449 console available by itself, that is no longer an option, and the $500 used to be bundle option now just becomes the standard console option, where you don't get a pack-in game at that $500 price point. We know Pokemon Legends ZA is going to be kind of the holiday bundle that will be around through the rest of this year, but I do believe that there is a point in time where that one will obviously end, and then it's going to be interesting to see, does Nintendo continue to pack in a different game that is in their lineup from a first-party perspective, or do they just remove that option altogether and we actually see a $50 increase on the Switch 2 at some point after the holiday season? It is an unfortunate reality and a possibility that we could see, not guaranteed by any means, and Nintendo's clearly in their acquisition phase for new console owners in the Switch 2, so they don't want to do that price change too early on into the console life cycle. But again, we're in for-profit company, they're not going to want to necessarily eat the additional cost, and it has been revealed that their margins are very, very low in terms of profitability on the Switch 2 when it comes to their manufacturing costs versus what they're selling it at. So if this is going to be the remaining tariff that is like in effect for the foreseeable future, yeah, no telling for sure, but we might get a mid-console generation price hike for the Switch 2, which would definitely not be a good thing to see, but pick one up during this holiday season if you want to be on the safe side from all that stuff. So Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection doesn't appear to be a game key card, as you can see this highlight here. This is going to be a cool collection of all of the classic Mortal Kombat games, and it is going to be more expensive. So this is just the developers kind of offering what people have voiced online that they would actually prefer, but at a higher price point. So you can see the Legacy Collection available on PS5 right here, just the standard edition physically, $47. Okay, you have that same exact thing for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, whereas the Switch 1 edition is here at $47. The Switch 2 edition, because of that extra cost for the cartridge, as we've talked about, this is a small game that's having to be put on a 64 gigabyte cartridge because that's all Nintendo offers, $57.85. So they are essentially passing on a $10 increase to the end consumer. You do also have the deluxe edition available for $83, which is also up from $65 of the other editions. So yes, there's actually a price hike, which I don't know why they went up to $83 on the deluxe edition. That's more than a $10 price hike, but regardless, the standard edition, I would assume would be the probably better option for physical collectors that want to pick up the game, and then you could always, of course, purchase DLC separately if you wanted to. Anyway, $57.85, extra $10, but you do have that literal on cartridge experience, where you're going to own that game forever. The data is going to be on the cartridge. So it'll be interesting to see clearly how this one performs, because as mentioned, there is some people that have asked for, I would pay more if they just gave me the game on a physical cartridge, and that's what they're doing. Mortal Kombat Studios, in this case, putting them onto that on cartridge experience. And it's very smart, because I do think that the audience who's going to want to go out and buy that game physically is going to want the on cartridge experience, because they're a collector mindset. And so I do think that they're targeting the right audience there. So we'll have to see how this one performs in comparison to other releases that are game key card. Okay. To wrap us up here, Nintendo confirms Metroid Prime 4 to be playable at Fan Expo Canada and still due in 2025. There's been a lot of talk about, since we haven't seen this game's release date yet, is Metroid Prime 4 delayed? Well, you have this. Fan Expo Canada attendees will have access to play the latest and upcoming titles on Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo of Canada is inviting you to visit the Fan Expo Canada in Toronto, Ontario, to check out the latest and upcoming games for the Nintendo Switch 2 system. Fan Expo attendees will be able to play upcoming games like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which is available later in 2025. So no internal plans change. There's some talk about the development of this game right now floating around online. There is probably some last minute finishing line stuff that has to be done with it. It may not be 100% finished in development right now, but that does not mean it's skipping 2025. However, I do believe the longer we wait to get a release date for this game, the more it looks like the November game for Nintendo for me personally. This is kind of what I'm thinking at this point. Could still be a late September release or even an October game. Maybe they double up on the month that Pokemon comes out, who knows? But I do think that this looks like the September release the longer we wait to learn about the release date. But the reaffirmation that it's out in 2025 and the fact that it's playable at this expo, we are getting close to this game's ultimate release, which has been such a long time coming. So Metroid fans have been on an interesting ride with this one. I've been there the whole time just waiting for it, and I can't wait to play it personally. So let me know in the comments down below what you make of all the different stories we talked about today. How do you feel about Nintendo seeking feedback on the game key card situation? And do you think it is a good sign that they are potentially listening to some of the feedback around the purchasing options that they've come out with in this Switch 2 generation? What do you think about the Switch 1 price hike and the basically entire round of accessories being affected? And were you in the market to pick up any of those now? And has this swayed your decision in one direction or another? Are you somebody who would pick up the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection on physical as it is going to be on the game? And how do you feel about that $10 price increase for the standard edition? And then Metroid Prime 4, do you think it's still coming out in 2025? Do you personally believe Nintendo may delay it? And will you be trying to show up at any of the events that Nintendo's participating at to potentially play it in the near coming future? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.